I just received from the library my ebook copy of Business Casual by BK Borison. So I am once again reading a BK Borison book. Hey, I don't know if this is the last in the series. It's the last one that's out currently, but it released I think in 2024. So like maybe there's another one coming. I'm not sure. Um, but I guess I'll probably be able to tell from reading the book if it seems like it's setting up another romance. Then I'll know if there's another romance. But either way, I'm very excited to read it because I have loved all the BK Borison Love Light Farms books I've read so far. So I'm really excited to dig into it. Hopefully I will remember to update in this video. If not, sorry. I'm now 46% of the way through Business Casual. I'm making sure I remember to update at least a little bit. I'm enjoying it. I will say I find the editing isn't as strong in this one as in previous books. Like I've picked up on a bunch of editing errors, like punctuation and words and stuff. Not like a bunch, but like a noticeable number. And I don't know if that's because this book is the most recent one that came out, so there haven't been any like re-edits of it, or if it's because it's later in the series, so there's not as much care taken with it because the series is kind of like surefire sales, and that tends to happen when books or authors get big. Is I find that sometimes their editing doesn't, sometimes the editing isn't as good just because like I guess the publisher is like, we don't need to worry about that. I do wonder where exactly it's going because like we've already had the first like hookup basically, right? Because that was the premise, is they're like, we'll do this, get it out of our systems, and then just be as we were. But they're both like, oh, that definitely didn't get into my system, but I don't want this to be a thing, and the other person doesn't want it to be a thing, even though the other person does want it to be a thing, but they haven't communicated that, so of course. So I'm curious where it's going to go. I'm wondering if it's going to turn to like a friends with benefits thing, or is it just going to be a whole book of denial, or like what exactly is going to go on there. I'm curious about how like, I mean, I have some inkling of how it's going to work out in terms of Charlie being like very clearly, it's not that he hates his job, it's that he doesn't necessarily feel fulfilled by his job, I guess. And he's always seeking belonging, and he doesn't feel a sense of belonging in his job, especially because his job has him very much under the thumb of his father. So like, I think he's probably gonna, like, just the way this series works, he's gonna end up in Inglewild. But I'm curious, like, in exactly what capacity is he going to do that? Is he just going to become the farm's accountant? Or, like, what is he going to do? And then there's also the whole thing with Nova of, like, her stress about wanting her tattoo shop to be perfect and taking so much onto her plate and trying to do everything by herself. And so I'm curious about, like, what exactly is going to be the lesson learned, I guess, in that area. And also, a note with this is also that Charlie, who's the guy, I don't know if I've even talked about the synopsis, but whatever. Charlie, who's the guy, he's Stella's brother. He has ADHD, and Nova, who's the girl, she's Beckett's sister, and she has like chronic migraines. So there's some interesting representation there. But yeah, I think I've rambled enough. That's where I'm at right now. Okay, I did remember to update. So I finished reading Business Casual. It was fine. It was 4 out of 5. Not as good as the other ones. Not even just because like I found there were some issues with the editing and stuff, and also like I think reading these books back to back is actually not a good idea, because reading 3 books in this series so close together made me very aware that there's like just a lot of common threads in like how they're written, on a prose level, in terms of like the way the characters interact and like show affection and stuff like that. I know that's kind of a weird thing to like nitpick. It's fine. It's not actually a big deal. It's just that when you read them close together, it's like, yes, yes. And he squeezed the back of her neck, and he tapped his hands down her arms, and she kissed the corner of his smile. And yes. Like, it's a lot of that, which is fine. It's just, it's a lot to read repeatedly. Please ignore my clothes. I don't have anywhere to store them right now. But I also just like, the other books I had a really hard time, like I didn't want to have to put them down. I wanted to be able to just keep reading them. But this book there was like a day that I didn't read. So I was not as like absorbed into the book as I was with other ones. And I found the elements of the ending were kind of weird. Like, I really liked the whole bit with, like, I'm going to get into some spoilers here. I don't think it's that big of a deal. But I really liked the whole bit with Charlie and how they, like, invited him. He'd already decided he wanted to go to Inglewild instead of staying in New York because he wanted to be with Nova. But then they show up at Nova's house, and Stella and Luca and Beckett and Layla and all them are there. And they, like, give a presentation, and basically they're giving a presentation of being like, here's why you should stay in Inglewild, Charlie. We want you at Lovelight. And Stella makes a whole point of it being a family business, and yes, there's other reasons for it, but she specifically says, you know, I want to make this a family business. And then the next chapter is the epilogue, and we don't really hear anything, at least not that I remember, we don't really hear anything about Charlie involved in Lovelight as working at Lovelight. Like, I don't know what position he took, if he took a position, but instead he's the mayor, and I'm a bit like, okay, I mean, I guess that's fine, but okay. So I just thought that was, like, a little odd. I did like that, although now that I think about it, I do find it a little funny that books ending in proposals is a little weird to me, but whatever. I just think it's a little cliche to have a romance novel end in a proposal. I don't think that's necessary, but I did appreciate that this one had Nova proposing to him. I thought that was cute. Also, this is not an issue with the book at all. This is just my brain. While reading this book, this entire time I was reading the book, I was like, this should be a buy for buy book. They should both be buy. I just think that's how this book should go. But yeah, so I enjoyed it. It was fine, but it wasn't as strong as the other books, and I don't think these books stand up, at least not for me, as someone who notices those kinds of details in the writing. I don't think this is a series that stands up to reading back to back to back to back. I don't think it works for that. And it seems like this is the last book in the series, which I think is the correct choice. I think that doing more would just drag it out, and I think this is a natural conclusion for the story. This feels just about right. That's where I'm at. If you how do I end these videos? Thank you for watching. If you watched the whole video, please comment, what emoji should we do? Some sort of business related emoji. Put a little suit, and like, comment, subscribe, all the things, and I guess I will see you in the next video. Okay, bye.